If you ever would have told me months ago that a global government would be taking over the globe, I would have never believed you. But now I know, and I'm absolutely convinced that this is in fact what is occurring. What's happening to all of us around the world is unprecedented. And the media is seemingly led every step of the way. Because what we understand and know to be true today is that the media is really essentially just a marketing arm. And what they print is propaganda. A lot of people here in the Western world will say, oh no, that's not true. But it is. And I'm going to tell you why. When all of this started in China, it was perfect. And it's a perfect ploy. Why? The language, number one. Number two, an oppressive government. Security, facial recognition, all of those components to keep the truth from leaking out. Now, a lot of us think we saw the truth, but I can tell you a lot of those leaked videos were leaked by the CCP. They were leaked by the people that you thought they were leaked by. They're all to keep us in a state of fear. That's the whole idea. The fact remains that even with the knowledge that they were feeding the West about the virulence of the virus, you know who was actually listening to the Chinese. Everybody is centered into the relationship between the head of the you-know-who and China. But I am looking deeper than that, because as the media goes after the World Health Organization now for their incompetence, you have to know that it was all by design. You have to. And this is why it was allowed to perpetuate, because it was part of a larger plan. The first thing that had to happen was the situation had to hit a level of emergency. And they needed it to get to that level. And in fact, when they called it a pandemic, in which people all over the world were calling for, it gave them ultimate power. What happened at that very point is that they assumed control of every nation's decision making. And a general from Ethiopia became, without a medical degree, by the way, became the head honcho on the decisions and our lives of 3.5 billion people. And what they needed this. And the reason I'm saying this is because they needed us to be under measures that we would have never subscribed to had we known. In a free country, you can't come in with guns blazing. You have to be super creative. And they have been. They needed to create an enemy. And in the West, it's hard to create an enemy because it's just not our nature to think in that way, particularly here in Canada. We're peaceful people. It's not part of our landscape. This is why we cannot see the subterfuge. I visited visited nations where there's all sorts of subterfuge, and everybody knows it. But here in the West, we don't believe this corruption exists. We believe we're above it. And in fact, they needed us to believe that, because they could have never done what they're doing to us now. Over a week and a half ago, I got a report that there were military in Canada, and they were on the road coming west from Ontario. I didn't know the person personally, although I know the source very well. And I decided I needed to see more. So I started putting a call out and didn't get anything back. And then yesterday there was an article about the military. And they're in Alberta, up north. And then I had to go back to Jason Kenney 3 weeks ago talking about the park closures. First, he was handing over certain maintenance to different agencies, and then it was an out-and-out closure last Friday night. No one can go fishing or on a hike. I don't know about you, but every guy I've ever seen fishing is all by himself and has no problem with social distancing. So I had to know that that was not right. Something was wrong with this picture. And now we got confirmation. I'm not going to wait this time to tell you because I've been mentioning it on my Facebook, but again, I'm a bit of a geek. I really like my flight radar. It's my video game. And I've been clicking away, especially coming over from China into Alaska and the planes that head over our way overhead through Canada. And I've been watching 3 players in the sky for quite some time. But all of a sudden I'm seeing a whole lot of new players. And there's a whole new set of radar. About 3 weeks ago, a satellite radar was introduced on Flight Radar 24. It used to be just the regular, and now it's the other. There's 2. So when all these planes were closing down, which I found interesting because apparently all these airlines are going belly up. But when you look on Flight Radar, the flight traffic has actually increased. It has. I'm seeing these satellite radar planes dropping into Alaska and then resuming, or what I think is resuming, but it's on the regular radar, to the US. And then I saw them coming into Canada. They've been hitting the whole US East Coast and the whole US West Coast. And this has been going on for a couple of weeks. The ones that go to the West Coast don't go through to Alaska, generally. It's the ones going to the East. I'm really careful because I don't want to unleash fear. They're already doing a good job of that already. And I believe that there are UN soldiers coming now. I believed this 2 weeks ago. It seemed very apparent to me when I saw those same satellite radar planes heading from Europe to the Caribbean. And my first joke, actually, I had it on my Facebook, was that all the elite was escaping to the Caribbean to wait this shit out. But no, I don't know. But I believe it's military. We don't have a lot of military in Canada, and I don't know that they would have enough to lock us down. And here was the thing, they had to get us in various states of lockdown. The only way this was going to happen, in order for a global government to take control, is to get us out of the way. What I started looking at was the differences between cities and our measures all over the world. And hit me the other day when I read an article about Sweden. You see, here in Regina, we've got about 1,300 people per square kilometer. In Toronto, we've got about 4,000 per square kilometer. Stockholm is Sweden is kind of like Toronto, same density. Largely apartments, condos, people stacked. Kind of like Chicago, LA, anywhere like this. Yet here in Regina, we largely live in single family dwellings. And we have a whole lot more space. And as you can tell, that population density of 1,300 per square kilometer is huge. The other big difference about Toronto and where I live is our transit is pretty much non-existent. It's in fact a joke. The only people we laugh, the only people that take the transit are immigrants that come here without a car because everybody else has one. Now I go about 6-8 months a year without a car every year, and I walk. And people laugh at me straight up. It's part of my workout. So I figure if I have a car, I will literally drive 3 blocks. So I don't have one. And it helps. And it makes me super active. And then I had to look at the measures. Here we are with the same measures as Toronto. Yet in Sweden, they don't have any measures. In fact, they're one of the only countries in the world with limited measures. They're not social distancing. They're not being required to. They're not limiting groups. They're still out and about doing what they want. The only thing they've enacted really is for people over 70 to be cautious, and they would like them out for 1 walk a day and would like them to reduce their exposure. But it's a request, not an edict. And then I had to look at why. The whole world economy has crashed, right? Except for Sweden. Because Sweden has gotten a pass. Because it is their vision of the circular economy that is actually going to be infiltrating our entire world. I learned about the circular economy, and I've heard about this years ago, but I got interested in it when I was looking at China and the free trade zones that were happening when I was researching the coronavirus. Somehow that came up. And I did a video about it. It's in my set, and I'll put the link down below so you can go back and check it out. And at that point, I thought it was delusions of grandeur. But the Chinese picked it up, and they've got 12 different free trade zones. And that will be the focus of these free trade zones, is this new circular economy. Now, of course, circular socialist. Which is why, if they ever told us that this is what they were going to give us, we would have rebelled, right? We wouldn't have allowed it in our democracy. And they're just not giving us a choice. Your new economy around the globe is now the circular economy. The UN is already after us for another 10% tax to pay for all of this coronavirus madness that they unleashed. And whom we gave the segue in to take control of our respective governments. Canada, we have military on the ground here. It's happening. And we're being contained. Everywhere is being contained that doesn't already have the system in place. Sometimes you have to look at what they're not telling you. And this is a perfect example of that. This is subterfuge. We've been betrayed by every leader in this country and around the world. They were never on your side. And they lied. And now they're playing stupid, which is even a greater insult to us all. I want you to start researching that circular economy, and we're going to be talking a whole lot more about it because that's what's coming. You see, I'm about truth, and the reason I am is because I like to know what's coming so that we can prepare. Our governments in the West, they decided to spring it on you. It's a hard pill to swallow. And I fear that the red pill is gone forever because socialism is now taking over our country. And you must listen to Trudeau for the last week and Trump. You see, all of this new domestic industry, it's going to be part of the circular economy. They just haven't told you. Thank you so much. And I honestly, I can't believe what I'm speaking about, but I know it to be true now. And I just hope that you're going to take the information and know that life isn't going to be the same anymore. So if you're still thinking it is coming out of this, you're being delusional. All of us are affected. And we've been literally jailed away in our respective countries under certain measures in order to ensure that this carries forth. Military on the way. I never thought I would ever say this in my country. It's time to wake up. As we're being locked down, the 5G is going in. You know what they need that 5G for? Ultimate control. Our whereabouts. You know what they need that social distancing for? To keep us apart from one another so we won't talk and correspond. So we won't bond. Now is the time to reach out to everyone and that you know. Connect. Because this is the world. This is the new future they have for us. And we've been betrayed. Please subscribe. I'd love to have you on my channel. And of course, Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is always active. Wonderful conversations going on with a lot of really in tune people. I love it. Even though this is tough, I can tell you that being surrounded by people that see what's right before their very eyes is inspiring as hell. And even if the rest of you don't recognize, you will one day. And don't take it from me. Start putting the clues together for yourself. Because when you actually take the time to do that, instead of digesting what you're fed, you will see the truth for yourself.